Number 2.
My family and I had just moved into a 2-story house in Westfield, Wisconsin. My brother Logan was 5 and Aiden was 7. I'm a female and I was 13 at the time. It was a very old, dusty house that needed a lot of fixing up. We were very short on money though, so we moved in and started to fix the place up. I'll do my best to describe the house. The front door led into a sitting room that my parents made into a bedroom. That room connected to the dining room and kitchen, as well as a small office room. There was a closed-in hallway in the middle of the kitchen that led up a very, very narrow set of stairs to a small platform with 3 doors. My door on the left, a closet in the middle, and my 2 brothers' rooms on the right. There were also 2 small crawl spaces on either side of the stairs, about halfway up. The previous owners had been very old and the husband had passed away, so the wife moved in with her daughter across the state and sold us the house for very cheap, as it needed lots of renovation. I had 3 cats and 2 large dogs. My cats were acting extremely strange as soon as we moved in, but I figured it was just because it was new, dusty, and a creaky house. The dogs were kept outside most of the time, and with their dog houses in the garage to use, as it was late fall and getting cold, they were fine. The previous owner had also left a huge, half-working piano in the dining room when she had left. A few weeks passed with nothing strange happening, except for the occasional weird feeling, or creaky noises at night. Then, a few days after the first snow, all hell broke loose. I was in my bed late at night, listening to scary narrations, when I heard a creaking coming up the stairs. I figured it was my black Labrador, Bubba, and went to let him in. I opened the door and looked out into the darkness of the hallway, only to see nothing. The noise had stopped, and I thought maybe it had been one of the cats that was just goofing around on the steps at 2 a.m. I shrugged it off and went back to bed. As soon as I sat down, loud, and I mean loud, footsteps started up the stairs. Slowly, but very loudly, and definitely not something in my head. My mind went through 100 scenarios, and long story short, I grabbed my aluminum baseball bat and opened the door, prepared to crack some skulls if necessary. I flipped on the light, and there was nothing. At this point, I was extremely uneasy, and quickly grabbed my youngest kitten from my bed and ran across the tiny platform into my brother's room. I closed and locked the door behind me. A few hours later, I dozed off and was asleep at the foot of my brother's bed when a blood-curdling, terrifying scream ripped through the silence. The entire house was awakened by it, and my mother came bounding up the stairs thinking it was me who had screamed. She opened the door and stood in the room, wide-eyed and scared, staring at the 3 of us. My dogs were barking wildly, and my cat darted around while my brothers screamed and cried in fear. I explained to her the events of the night, and she quickly ushered us downstairs, and we all slept in her room downstairs. The next morning, we almost forgot the incident and were relatively relaxed. I was heading outside, walking my dogs, and was heading back towards the house when I heard my mother screaming and crying. I dropped the leashes and booked it back to the house, terrified only to see my mother lying on the ground outside the open back door, clutching her wrist and screaming. I screamed at my stepdad to take her to the hospital, to which he told me to shut the fuck up and sit down, as he calmly and slowly rolled a cigarette. I got pissed and called an ambulance. They came and got my crying mother. She had broken her wrist and needed surgery and plates put in to repair it. She told me that she had been going out to the garage to get a box of kitchen supplies, and she felt like someone had pushed her off of the back step onto the ice when she slipped and smashed her wrist. A few days later, she was home and I could finally rest a bit easier. I'm extremely protective of my mother and my brothers, and her hospital stay was hell on my psyche. All was well for a few days, and then the footsteps and screaming started again. It woke up the neighbours even. We were beyond scared, and one night, while my parents were out, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I locked my brothers and I into a room, thunder and lightning rumbling and flashing outside. A week later, we were packing our things to move out of the house. I finally got the courage and curiosity to open those crawl spaces. I climbed inside the one on my side of the hall and turned on my flashlight. My mum waited behind me to help me out. It was extremely narrow and dusty, In the far back corner, there were a few crayons, a small teddy bear, and stains all over the floor that looked like old blood splatters. It smelt horrible in those crawl spaces. In the other one, there were drawings all over the walls and dead mice so old that they were mummified. A few days later, we moved into my mum's friends. Needless to say, that house terrifies me and will always terrify me no matter what. Number 1. In 2012, when I was 24, I lived in a small rural town called Chatsworth in the state of Georgia. It borders vast wilderness and mountain areas, lots of forests nearby. Some more background information though. When I was 18, I made a few mistakes I'm not proud of. I had slept with a 16-year-old girl, and so I have to register as a sex offender for the rest of my life. It's no big deal, but this comes into play later. The only other person I ever associated with who was also a registered offender was a man we called Fred. Fred worked at a carpet mill with me. It's just about the only work to be had in this small town. Fred was older and a bit creepy, but I put up with him because he would drive me to work and drop me off at home quite often. Usually, on my days off, I would go jogging in what we call the circle during the night hours. It's a sidewalked path that circles around the rec centre and swings by the library. I'm not really supposed to be in the proximity because of a nearby school, but there were never any problems, and nobody really bothers anyone where I lived. One day, Fred was driving me home, and he seemed paranoid. He kept watching cars and asking me if I had made the same turns as he did. He was trying to figure out if I was being followed. I told him that I hadn't really noticed. I'm not one of those tough guy types like he was, nor am I prone to any real paranoia. Not then I wasn't anyway. Fred went on to tell me that there were rumours of strange disappearances in Chatsworth and the surrounding cities, particularly sex offenders. I told him, "Relax dude, you're just being paranoid. People take off and don't register all the time." To which he quickly responded, "Exactly." He was starting to sound a bit crazy, so I just listened and didn't offer any more input. Then he went on to say, "And if no family members report them missing, it's a criminal offence. They take out a warrant on them, not search or rescue. No investigation into the disappearance, like a normal citizen." Then he went on to tell me that he had thought he was being followed a few times by the same vehicle, a dark green SUV, and that one night the GBI had watched his home for the night, informing him that there had been some strange rise in absconders, and that due to this fact, they would be conducting random stakeouts to try and figure out what was happening. I told Fred that they probably just shook him up, and now he was reading too much into it. Then he dropped me off, and I went into my usual routine in my small single-wide trailer. As I browsed on my laptop, it quickly occurred to me that anyone could get online and find all of my information. Where I live, work, past employment, everything. It's all public information, and of course, I already knew that. But if anything was occurring, there would be really no way to escape for me. I shrugged it off. Fred is a bit weird anyway. I don't even know what his offence was, but I doubt it was as innocent as mine. I didn't even want to know. A couple of weeks go by as normal. I had almost forgotten about Fred's weird stalker. Then he told me something that gave me shivers down my spine. We were driving to work, and he was recounting an earlier conversation we had. When I was at his house a week earlier, we had a couple of beers and heard a car engine running outside. He told me it was probably his landlord's generator, that he hears it every night for a while, sometimes several times per night. Well, he told me that he looked outside for some reason, around 4 AM, and there it was, the dark green SUV. It was just sitting in the dark, running in the road. No headlights on, or anything. He said that the noise was the vehicle that had been following him. Then he told me that he thought someone had been in his home while he was at work, that some things were missing, though he wouldn't tell me what. It seemed like they were things he didn't want anyone to know about. He also told me that his landlord confirmed that he hasn't run his generator but a couple of times that whole month. Fred's paranoia got worse, then it got better. At first, I could tell he hadn't been sleeping over the course of many days. He would say things like, "He's toying with me, the fucker, I know it." Then, one day a couple more weeks later, he told me, I guess I lost that psycho. No problems for over a week. Thank God. I was a bit relieved. I don't like to see anyone under that sort of stress, real or imagined. I was afraid. Fred must have been the culprit. I knew it. That paranoid sick freak is now messing with me. A few days after that conversation, and no more mention of it, I just got back from my usual jog and noticed that my living room light was off. I knew I left it on, but hell, maybe it just blew out. But then as I approached the door, I saw that one of my flower pots had fell off the porch. It looked like it got bumped off. I still didn't think much of it, because there are neighborhood dogs that roam around. Maybe one knocked it off my porch. The front door was still locked, exactly as I left it. But as I entered the home, I knew something was wrong. My laptop was shut. I never shut my laptop because the screen hinge was broken, so I always left it open, but someone else wouldn't know that. I was afraid, but Fred must have been the culprit. I knew it. That paranoid sick freak is now messing with me. Who knows what he wants to do to me. The next day went like normal, but when he picked me up for work, I didn't say much to him. But he acted normal, like he always does. I kept studying him for clues the next few days, but all was normal. One night, on my jog, I had the eeriest feeling that I was being watched. I slowed to a walk and stared out across the ball field. I was approaching the library. The tree line of the woods, about 100 yards away, in the dark, scanning across. Something. A leg? My heart jumped, and I noticed the outline of a person standing on the edge of the woods. I could barely make him out, but I could see he was holding something up to his face with both hands. It reflected the streetlights for a moment. I just kept walking, but at a faster rate. This man looked tall and thin, not short and fat like Fred. I really can't picture Fred going through all the trouble to walk out there anyway, especially in the dark. Who does that? Walks in the woods around the rec center and stands in the dark. When I got back to my trailer, I decided to do some investigating. The keyhole had scratch marks underneath it. Some looked fresh, some looked old. I had never noticed them before. Maybe they were already there when I started renting the place. I don't know. But I didn't want to ask the landlord if something was damaged before I got the place. It just wouldn't have sounded right. I forgot about everything, for a while. About a week later, I was waiting for Fred to pick me up for work. He was running late. Fred had his flaws, but he was always early. Always the exact same time. Fred was like clockwork. His entire routine was, and so was mine. Shit, how could he do this? I'm calling his phone. No answer. I call work. No answer. Well, long story short, I ended up calling into work that day and never heard back from Fred. Ever. The following few workdays consisted of me calling a cab to take me to work. One day, my supervisor asked me if I had heard anything from Fred. I said no. The bastard left me hanging and quit his job without letting me know. Well, we haven't really heard from him either, but his mother has been calling us asking, and so has his parole officer. I didn't even know he was on parole, but this was enough information for me to become very worried. Everyone seemed to forget about Fred over the week. It was like he never even worked there. It was so astonishing to really think about how someone could vanish from the face of the earth without any concern being raised a week later. About a half a month went by before the incidents began, again. Several times I knew someone had been in my home. I started getting many Facebook friends requests from outrageously hot women that wanted to ask me about everything in the world. I'm not even supposed to have a Facebook, so I deleted mine. Something weird was going on. Often my webcam light would just come on by itself. Sometimes my emails would be read, ones that I hadn't read. I changed my passwords, then they got rechanged. This happened many times. I knew someone was hacking into my accounts. The other IP addresses that logged into them showed other countries, so I knew they were using proxies. The creepy happenings during my jogs continued. One man jogged toward me and bumped me hard. He had on a hood, so I didn't see his face. But the way he just kept going, it seemed intentional, like he was fucking with me. I saw glints of light in the bushes while jogging. I dared not investigate them though. Then, one night jog seemed normal, until bright headlights came flying down the road. A road in a school zone. You just don't go flying down this road. It's between a high school, a library, a hospital, and right near the police station. It flies up, a truck, I think, and just as I think it's about to zip past, the brakes hit hard. There's a bit of a screech of tires, and the high beams come on. I can't see anything. Then it slowly creeps by. I have the overwhelming feeling that a shark is circling me. As it passes by, I see it's the dark green SUV, a Chevy Trailblazer. It passes by, and I never see the face of the driver. I had begun to research the absconders, the sex offenders who have moved and not registered their new addresses. They had almost quadrupled in my area in the past 4 years. Suddenly, and it stayed that way with some minor verifications over those 4 years. I searched for missing persons in my area. Fred was not listed. Maybe many are not. But 6 of them in those past 4 years were also absconders on the sex offender registry. Before that, there were only 2 listed that were also absconders. If I went back 3 years before that, no listed missing persons were sex offenders. But as I thought about it, Fred wasn't listed. Who knows how many have gone missing? The number of absconders from the sex offender registry was 10 to 16 more than usual per year for the last 4 years. Hell, I thought. You're just being paranoid. Relax. You'll end up like Fred. End up like Fred? How did Fred end up anyway? This was a rough time for me, to be sure. But it seemed like something I could completely forget about until something would happen. Then it was always harmless enough to creep me the fuck out, but then I could forget about it again. I went back to my jogs for a while and had no more issues during my night jogs until the night it happened. I was approaching the area between the library and the local hospital about 3 a.m. Anyone from Chatsworth will have a clear picture in their mind of this area. Catching my breath, I slowed to a walk, taking in the serene stillness. The cool air was rushing down my throat, and my heartbeat was going fast. I was looking over towards the hospital, the only thing with any activity, but there wasn't anyone outside at the moment. It was so still, so calm, and deserted. Deserted other than the parking lot behind me I'd already passed. Someone had left their vehicle there. The vehicle I saw a couple of minutes previous and paid no mind to. The SUV. I went to turn and see and felt something pop. It hit me right in the butt cheek. A man approached, not walking directly from the vehicle, but from the direction of the woods. I'm shocked, and I look at my now burning numb backside, and a large projectile, like a dart with a coloured fuzzy ending, protruded from my back pocket. I was trying to run away and remove the dart, realising it was stuck in me through my pants. I was fumbling, stumbling. It began to get hard to focus and hard to hold myself up. Everything became heavier, and if I can just make it to the fucking hospital, if I can just get up the road and cross it. I keep looking behind me, then in front of me. He's getting closer, and the road seems further and further. I just can't make it to the damn road. How can I even get to the hill leading up to it? What am I doing? Where am I? Things keep getting more and more distant. I have some vague memories, I think, of being carried, of being rolled onto something metal that I'm laying against. Something with wheels at the bottom, but upright. Some vague memories of sitting in a passenger seat watching streetlights go by. Then lots of trees. Lots of trees for a while. Dirt roads, mountain roads, being rolled onto something again. Someone talking to himself. Maybe to me? I can't tell. Everything is just so incoherent. I have some dreams, though I can't remember them, aside from that they were very weird. I awaken and it's still night. What? No, I can't remember it being daylight. What? Daylight in the woods? When? I'm just totally out of it. I'm restrained to a tree. My pants were wet. Yes, I urinated on myself, apparently. My hands are restrained, above my head. My feet are fastened together into the tree. I'm very hungry. Has a whole day gone by? I'm sore in multiple places. I can tell I've been beaten a bit. After coming to my senses, I realize I'm on a trail, tied to a tree. There's a table set up in front of me, with knives laid out. A sign hanging above the table, on a tree just in front of me. After spending some quiet time trying to read in the dark, I saw that it read something along the lines of, "Don't worry, I will return." I was scared to fucking death. I've never gone through something like this before or since. I'm really a nice guy. I would never intentionally hurt anyone. Why is this happening to me? I'm hyperventilating and freaking out. I cry and scream. No use. Every forest sound must be him. Then it isn't. I can't tell what time it is or how long I wait. I can't get loose because I feel so weak and nothing seems to be working. Eventually, I hear the sound of an engine. I scream, "Help me!" as loud as I can, but the sound just goes away. Time just keeps going on, and then I get that overwhelming creepy feeling again, like someone is coming for me. Yeah, that feeling I've been feeling all this time. I was being stalked. It is like the feeling of absolute evil in the shadows of the unknown. I know it's him, he's nearby. And suddenly, I hear a man's voice.
"Awake yet?"
I don't say anything. I'm not asleep, just not saying anything. It's dark though, and I guess he couldn't see me.
"Fuck, I guess I killed him already. Now what the fuck am I gonna do?"
He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was just pissed because he lost something and didn't have anything to do. He sets down a backpack and pulls out a package, a sack of something. It's rolling tobacco. He sits against the tree and rolls a cigarette. He's tall and skinny, but something he gives off is menacing. It's like how some guys you don't want to mess with because they're big guys, but then there's those few that are small guys, but you just know not to fuck with them. He was one of those. He wasn't big, but I could just tell he was a very intimidating guy. I could smell his cologne as he sat there, checking his phone. He was cussing something about a woman he was texting, or when she would meet him, or if she was done with him. I think he mentioned 2 different ones, but I can't remember. Eventually, I have that familiar stinging burn in my sinuses. Oh fuck, I have to sneeze. It happens. I sneeze hard, and the man jumps on his feet, walking over, glaring to investigate. I see his eyes light up with a demonic-like enjoyment. Not like he's insane crazy, just really excited. No, this guy was in total control. Total control of everything. He knew exactly what he was doing and had done this enough to be used to it.
"Oh good, you're awake. Still groggy?"
It's still hard to remember all of it, but he went on having a very long conversation with me. He did almost all of the talking, and it pretty much involved completely around him. He said that he had already taken my friend. He told me that there had been 28 others before me. He talked as if this made him look like a god, because when we're this far out, the world doesn't exist and that we are the only 2 people there are. That when he becomes the most important person, to me, he is the most important person that exists. I could tell he was getting a high from this. It was like crack to him. But he was completely in control, not a crazed-like lunatic. He bragged a lot about how smart he was, how he would use his spyware to watch me at home, how he has been in my home many times, how he knew everything about me. It was like I was talking to Satan himself. He was cunning and in control, drunk with power. I was afraid, and he was getting off on it. I also remember that he had a lot of hairspray, or perhaps mousse. He was a white man in maybe his mid-20s. His hair was dark brown or black, and he did it with these distinctive spikes or bangs. His eyes lit up with total evil when he was happy, glowing with anticipation and malice. As the night went on, I told him I'm not a bad guy, that I don't deserve this, that he had the wrong idea, the wrong person. He explained to me that he didn't care. He thought it was funny that I didn't understand. He wasn't mad at me, no. It would have been much better if it was someone angry with me. He was doing this for his enjoyment. I went on. "What are you going to do to me? Please. I won't tell anyone, I promise." He pulls out a knife, shaped like a hook, then tells me that he will turn my face into a work of art. Then that he would eventually be done with me. He didn't actually say it, but by done with me, I knew what he meant. He was going to kill me. This evil man was going to torture and kill me out in the woods, and nobody would ever know what happened to me. My family would never know. Nobody. I would be forgotten, just like Fred. I'm sorry I don't remember all the exact words. I still felt heavily drugged, and perhaps my mind tries to block out some of those terrifying memories, but I know that he began to cut the left side of my face, slowly, and held my head still. He was savouring the moment, I could tell. He was trying to take his time and holding his urges back. I don't remember if he told me this, or maybe I just knew. Eventually, he said he wanted to save some for later. He unlatched me, let me drink from some bottled water, then gave me a candy bar. After crouching down for a while and gathering my strength, he let me take a piss. He told me,
"Don't even think about running."
I didn't have the energy to anyway. It hadn't even occurred to me. This guy was being so normal with me, I thought he may have just let me go, or at least trust me a bit. How could he be so normal with me, and not? Right or wrong? No, he latched me back up in the dark. He fumbled around a bit. I could tell he was having trouble. The only time I ever saw him have trouble with anything. I don't remember him leaving or me falling asleep. Maybe I fainted. I awoke and it was daylight. He wasn't there. The table and duffel bag he kept his knives in were still there. The sign was gone. Maybe he took it down last night. I honestly don't remember. But wait, I'm in a kneeling position. Feet still strapped. Hang on. The wrist straps have broken. They must have broken loose in my sleep. This is it. It's now or never. The crickets are beginning their sounds and the forest is getting darker by the minute. It's getting late. I know. I'm hurrying to rip apart the plastic wrap that is tightly bound around my ankles in many layers. I think I'm loose and start to jump into a sprint, but fall on my face. Still, a few more bands of plastic. I notice how sore my face is. The left side. He cut marks down it. I get my feet free and dash madly through the woods. No stopping. Even after it's dark, I keep running, tripping over briar bushes, hitting trees face first. I didn't care. I just kept getting up and running until I hit something else. Eventually, after probably hours of pitch black dashing, I curl into a ball and silently rest, unsure if I will ever awaken. Every sound scares the hell out of me. It's worse than a Friday the 13th movie. This guy is menacing and smart. The next morning, I make it to a farm, then to a local highway, 411. I didn't even bother packing my belongings when I got home. I grabbed my wallet and essentials, left the computer, and caught a bus to another state, where I have family. It's 100 miles away from Chatsworth, Georgia. It still scares me though. I couldn't tell the police because I would have to explain too many things I had screwed up and done wrong. That man is still out there. I doubt he's just stopped as well. No. Someone like that doesn't just stop what he's doing. He can always get online and find me, no matter where I go. And now I have a horrifying memory every time I look into the mirror. The scars on my face, they are his art. G'day mates, it's B-Buster here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video guys. Thanks again to the Hive members that bravely shared their stories for us all here. And for the chance to have your story feature in a video, you can send your stories to my email, which is in the description below. And keep them coming guys, as this channel relies upon your stories to continue. And just to let you guys know, I'm going to try and begin working on my second channel next week. I'll be trying to develop a consistent routine alongside this channel, and I have some ideas about how to construct my week to make the most out of both channels. But this channel will always be my main channel, so don't go worrying that I'll just become another gaming YouTuber or something. As always guys, it would be awesome if you could like, share, comment and subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for updates throughout the week. Thanks again for tuning in guys, and I'll see you mates in the next one.